General Motors said today it is cutting close to 14,000 jobs, including 15% of its salaried workforce, and closing 5 production facilities in North America in the next year.
14,000 jobs gone. 5 factories shut down. And Donald Trump? Furious. In a move that blindsided Washington and rattled America's industrial heartland, General Motors announced it will close major U.S. plants and slash thousands of jobs, all in the name of electric vehicles. Trump wasted no time. He called the decision a betrayal, a disgrace. But here is the twist: GM is not backing down. Instead, it is doubling down, pouring $35 billion into EVs and automation. What is unfolding is not just a corporate pivot. It is a brutal tug-of-war between America's largest automaker and its most volatile former president. Wall Street is in shock. Workers are protesting. Union leaders are livid. And behind closed doors, Trump is threatening economic retaliation. This is not just about cars. It is about control of jobs, of production, of America's future. So buckle up, because what is coming next could define the next decade of American industry. If you care about jobs, power, and who really controls the future, hit subscribe and stay with us. Number 5. GM cuts 14,000 U.S. jobs in its largest restructuring since the 2008 crisis. The shock came fast and brutal. General Motors confirmed it will lay off 14,000 workers across the United States and Canada, a move that instantly triggered fury in Washington and panic in the Rust Belt. This is not just a trimming of the fat. It is a brutal gutting of traditional manufacturing hubs like Detroit, Warren, and Lordstown. The official reason? GM claims it is pivoting to an electric future. That future comes with a price: fewer workers, shuttered plants, and entire towns thrown into economic chaos. In total, 5 major facilities are being shut down, including the iconic Hamtramck assembly plant in Michigan and a transmission plant in Maryland. Thousands of union jobs gone. And what did Donald Trump do? He exploded. Publicly blasting GM CEO Mary Barra, Trump accused her of betraying American workers and warned of serious consequences. This is not the first time he has clashed with automakers. But insiders say this one feels different. Trump is under pressure, and GM's move made him look weak. Meanwhile, GM is pouring $35 billion into electric and autonomous vehicles. But here is the twist: EV manufacturing needs fewer hands. Simpler drivetrains, more automation, and streamlined production mean fewer jobs per vehicle. The backlash has already begun. Protests erupted in Michigan. Union leaders are calling it a betrayal. Trump loyalists are demanding tariffs. And analysts are asking whether this is just the beginning of a much larger collapse. And the most chilling part? GM is not backing down. So the question is, if GM no longer needs American workers to build the future, what happens to the towns that built GM? Number 4. Trump's tariffs backfire and hit GM where it hurts. When Trump imposed a fresh wave of 25% tariffs on auto imports, he claimed it was about protecting American jobs. But just days after the announcement, GM's stock plunged more than 6%, wiping out billions in value almost overnight. The message from Wall Street was clear: this trade war is turning into economic quicksand. Trump's tariffs were aimed at punishing companies that manufacture abroad, especially in Mexico and Canada. But here is the twist: GM is not offshoring just to cut costs. It is building a global supply chain to survive the electric vehicle race. EVs require lithium from Nevada, cobalt from Congo, and nickel from Australia. Forcing GM to cram this complex ecosystem back into a traditional U.S. factory model? That is not protectionism, that is sabotage. Roughly 30% of GM vehicles sold in America are assembled outside the country. Under Trump's tariffs, those cars are now more expensive. That means higher prices for consumers, delays in production, and tighter margins for a company already pouring $35 billion into an EV transition. Even worse, Trump's move has destabilized GM's carefully crafted strategy. Suppliers are panicking. Battery contracts are under review. And insiders warn that future EV launches, like the Silverado and Lyriq, could face delays. This is no longer just a policy disagreement. It is an economic collision course. Trump's political war on globalization is now hammering the very industries he swore to protect. And the deeper question is this: is Trump saving American jobs or destroying the future GM was trying to build? Number 3. The White House showdown that changed everything. In March 2025, GM CEO Mary Barra walked into the White House for what was supposed to be a strategic discussion. On the surface, it was framed as a talk about investments, jobs, and the future of American manufacturing. But behind closed doors, it became something else entirely: a political fistfight over control of the U.S. auto industry. Sources close to the meeting described it as tense, even combative. Trump came in hot, furious over the 14,000 layoffs and the plant closures across Michigan and Ohio. He demanded answers. Why was GM building more EVs in Mexico and Canada? Why were American factories being shut down while billions were being invested elsewhere? Barra came prepared. She had charts, forecasts, and supply chain maps. Her argument: GM needs global flexibility to compete with China and Europe. She warned that cutting off foreign partnerships would cripple GM's EV rollout and leave America behind in the clean energy race. Trump was not buying it. Then came the flashpoint: EV subsidies. Barra urged Trump to preserve the $7,500 federal EV tax credit. She said it was critical for staying competitive. Trump shot back, calling it corporate welfare. Insiders say he threatened to kill the subsidy entirely, a direct hit to GM's strategy. No handshake agreement. No compromise. Just two visions colliding. Barra wants to turn GM into a global EV leader. Trump wants to force the company back into an older mold, one rooted in domestic combustion engine jobs and political loyalty. So which future wins, the data-driven EV strategy, or Trump's raw America First agenda? Number 2. GM's EV factories are booming, but workers are being left behind. At first glance, GM's investment looks like a win. Over $35 billion committed to electric vehicles and autonomous tech. Shiny new plants like Factory Zero in Detroit and the upgraded Spring Hill complex in Tennessee. Robotic arms, lithium batteries, clean floors, and endless innovation. But take a closer look, and there is a brutal truth underneath the surface. Electric vehicle production does not need as many workers. Compared to internal combustion engines, EVs are simpler, lighter, and far easier to assemble. No transmissions. No complicated exhaust systems. And most of all, no massive factory floors packed with human labor. That is the twist. While GM ramps up its EV future, it is quietly shrinking its workforce. Entire towns that once depended on GM are being gutted. Detroit's East Side. Lordstown, Ohio. Warren, Michigan. Generations of skilled laborers, replaced by code, automation, and imported components. Even as new jobs are created, the net result is a loss. Fewer people. Less stability. More fear. Union leaders are calling it a betrayal. They argue that GM is cashing in on green energy promises while abandoning the very workers who built its legacy. And Trump, he is leaning in, blaming the collapse on corporate greed and threatening to pull all EV tax credits unless GM reverses course. But GM is not apologizing. Executives say this is the cost of progress. That the old model is dead, and those unwilling to adapt will be left behind. So here is the question: is GM building the future, or just writing off the American worker for good? Number 1. Wall Street turns on GM as market panic spreads. When Trump's 25% auto tariffs hit, it was not just factories that felt the blow, it was the financial system. Within days, GM's stock dropped more than 6%, wiping out billions in market value. Ford tumbled too. The Dow dipped into the red. Investors were not just nervous, they were furious. Because GM had spent the last 5 years re-engineering itself for the electric future. It built a global supply chain with precision, secured lithium from Nevada, and poured capital into vertical integration. The entire strategy was built on stability. But Trump's sudden trade war shattered that confidence overnight. Analysts from Morningstar to RBC Capital warned that the tariffs could delay GM's EV rollout, disrupt battery supply deals, and trigger price hikes across the board. One MarketWatch headline asked the question everyone on Wall Street was now whispering, is Trump punishing progress? But the backlash did not stop at investors. Media outlets began questioning the logic of a policy that targets a company trying to keep America competitive in the global EV race. Some even accused Trump of using economic warfare to score political points, no matter the cost. And yet, GM did not blink. Mary Barra doubled down on the company's EV roadmap. She told stakeholders GM would not backtrack, even if tariffs made short-term losses unavoidable. That is the real twist. Trump expected pressure to force a retreat. Instead, GM is digging in. So ask yourself, has Trump lost control of the one sector he promised to protect, American industry itself? Final thought. This is not just a battle between Trump and GM, it is a fight over the soul of American industry. On one side, a legacy automaker transforming itself to survive the EV revolution. On the other, a president determined to drag that transformation back into the past. 14,000 jobs lost. Factories shut down. Tariffs shaking Wall Street. And the core question remains, is this the cost of progress or the collapse of a promise? Trump says he is defending American workers. GM says it is preparing for the future. But for the families in Michigan, Ohio, and beyond, neither side is delivering security. The truth? This clash could redefine not just the auto industry, but the entire foundation of U.S. manufacturing. So what do you think? Is this how Trump protects America, or the moment he gambled it all away? Comment the next company you think will collapse, and hit subscribe so you do not miss the next breakdown.